Some pretty big news to kick off this video. Charlie did a Zwift time trial last night. The time trial was in Bologna. It's the first time she's ever ridden there because, of course, Bologna is an event-only world, isn't it? Entered her into a time trial, 8 kilometers. And I just told her that the majority of it is flat, at least distance-wise. And then you're going to hit this big climb at the end of like 1.2 miles in length. She rode the whole first section at about 170 watts. And this is, bearing in mind, she's riding it off feel because she doesn't know what her FTP is really. And she doesn't really have enough data to... And then she got to the climb and like just drove it to the line. I think she averaged like 178 watts up the climb and 170 on the flat. So it was a perfect bit of negative split in. And she came away with a new FTP as well. So Zwift had it at 150 watt FTP to begin with, but that was, I think, set by me because it was like a rough sort of middle ground. And now it's 168 watts. So handy little improvement there. Hopefully it's the start of something new. At least I really hope so anyway, because like this year, like consistency and everything else, I'm sure lots of you have been in the same situation, but you know, with like health and like injuries and everything else, it's just sometimes you wish, you know, someone just needs a clear run in it, do you know what I mean? And I've been pretty lucky in my career and my cycling life that I've had very few injuries or illnesses, and I've just been very consistent, and that's partly why I am where I am today. Okay, so 3 hours on the cards today, and I'm gonna also throw in some Sweetspot work. So I've had to plan my route quite carefully because it's always like the same with any sort of like sustained effort. If you live like somewhere urban, I guess, like I'm quite lucky in the sense that I've got like a lot of rural roads to ride on, but the problem with rural is it can be like twisty, it can be lanes. You can't apply the pressure on the pedals the whole time, so that's where that kind of is a bit of a letdown. So I have to kind of head off to the busier roads then, so that I can actually get my head down and get stuck into sustained efforts, because the difficulty is when you're pressing harder, obviously you're going faster. So doing them on the twisty roads is a bit more difficult and potentially dangerous. So far so good. That's the first 20-minute interval done. I don't know what my average was. Probably around 315, 320 watts. So second effort just finished, which is just as well because I'm about to head into some really twisty narrow lanes for a rare occasion on this ride. So I've timed that pretty well. So I got 5 minutes rest and I start the third block, and this is where feedback is really important, not just for you or your coach, but like for future you. Like the power that I'm doing for these 20-minute blocks, I managed to do for almost 2 hours straight in that 50-mile time trial I did back in May, I think. And I'm already 40 minutes into this after those 2 blocks, and I'm like, how did I manage that? For me, it would be important to note down, or at least keep an eye on, you know, how your heart rate reacts to like the second and third block, because the first block, well, it is what it is, isn't it? But as you start to get more and more fatigued, it's interesting to see how that reacts over the other blocks, how your power reacts, and of course how you feel. So how you are actually responding to those efforts. And even if it's like noting something small, like I started to grip the handlebars harder, I started to lean forward and get lower, because I think automatically most of us start to get more and more tired. We tend to pull ourselves forward, and that takes away then from like glute activation. Is it because I'm not like on the rivet, I'm not going really hard, I'm trying to mindfully sit further back in the saddle to take pressure off my hands and try to activate the glutes a bit more and give them a bit of a roll. Third effort done and dusted, ladies and gents. It was actually better than my second one, I think. Or at least it felt better. So just back there, about 100 meters or so, is the turn in to get onto this cycle path, which is the Clyne Valley cycle path. Most of the cycle paths around here, I think, follow like old railway lines. So this takes me all the way up to Gowerton. There's a new cycle path from Gowerton to Grove's End, and then apparently they're trying to build another new cycle path from there to Pontarddulais. So it's like 10 miles from just there back home. It would be mental if I could just like ride the whole way now on a cycle path, but sometime in the future that will happen. Well, I've not been lying here all afternoon, honestly. Well, I have actually. Although saying that, I have had my laptop here. The benefits of having laptop computers. Can't imagine what it was like years ago when you have to actually sit at a table and work at a desktop. But anyway, I got back from the ride, and although I didn't get wet, I got very muddy. I posted a photo on Instagram and people are like, oh, not again. But yeah, unfortunately, every single day almost, I'm coming back and the bike is filthy. So the trouble is, like, I don't want to leave it because, you know, the bike is always worse the next day. This is the difference between like rim and disc brake bikes. Like rim brake bikes, they're absolutely awful in this weather. The crap that it leaves, you know, behind on the wheel and the rims and the surrounding area on the frame. Charlie's been back home a couple of hours, but she did pop to the shop. She's picked up a couple of Christmas bits, which I've been told to hide away up there, like crisps and stuff, because apparently it's for Christmas. And if they're kept in any kind of sight for me, I will demolish them. I'm slowly but surely running out of my favourite Clifton coffee. I'm down to like the last bag, which should last me to the end of December, hopefully. But I've got 6 hours to do tomorrow, and I'm thinking as motivation, I'll ride to this newly opened or recently opened coffee shop in Llandaff, which is just north of Cardiff, called Coffee Lab Llandaff. So they stock Clifton coffee there, but it might be a nice excuse for me to ride somewhere different, like 3 hours in one direction, have a coffee, turn around, 3 hours back. Today I've got 4 hours to do, and a little bit of sweet spotting again, only this time I'm doing it on some hills, a bit more natural intensity today. So that's what I got coming up right now. Now it's going to be my third effort of the day. So I've selected this route only because of the longer climbs that it has. So the first climb I did was about 13.5 minutes. It was only about like 3 or 4% average, but you know, it's still a climb. The one I've just done, 16.5 minutes, with a steeper section in it, but a shallower bit at the beginning. This one is probably, aside from the last one, this one is probably the hardest. I've never done it before, but it is apparently one of the listed 100 climbs in Wales. But I'd never ever heard of it. I've ridden past it because it's just off this main road. I've ridden past it like loads of times. Never knew it was here. It's a lane, takes me to the top of like this hillside, which looks savage, I gotta be honest. That mountain isn't getting any smaller. Crazy good climb. I think I caught the first couple hundred meters of it. I could hear the GoPro going off on my head, so apologies for that, but it's a good one. It is a good one, I'll tell you that. Bosh, ride done. 1% battery left on the Wahoo as well, so I'm chuffed that I actually got back just in time. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of footage from that ride because of my camera issues, but it was a brilliant ride, and I'm so stoked that I found this descent, which will be a phenomenal climb going the other way. It was quite rough to come down it, but I imagine going up it'll just be like amazing. There was even a guardrail, like it was like proper like European, nothing like what you'd expect to find like in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, that was 4 hours. I've got 6 hours planned tomorrow. I'm well chuffed with how that's just gone, and I think all of those sweet spot blocks went really well, particularly the last one when the climb was going up and down quite a lot. So yeah, a lot of work done in those 4 hours. So I need to prioritise my recovery now and maybe have a nap. Oh.